Hello Texas Tech faculty, Ken Griffith here again. Now that you've sketched out your plan for the development of your new distance course, it's time to consider your syllabus. So these recommendations are not going to be a comprehensive guide to building the perfect syllabus. For that, I'll refer you to our catalog of white papers on the TLPDC website. In this video, however, I will offer some policy recommendations for you to consider. These policies may help you and your students navigate the world of distance education here at Texas Tech. To begin, I recommend a great deal of structure. Over the years, I have found that students tend to approach distance courses a little differently than their face-to-face counterparts. Let's just call it an out-of-sight, out-of-mind problem. I suggest that you create a welcome video, 10-15 minutes, no more than that, where you outline specific policies and really talk about the syllabus. In fact, I spend 15 minutes practically reading the entire syllabus. Really what I'm doing is I'm focusing on some key features. And while you could probably accuse me of spoon feeding, what I'm really doing is stressing the importance of our shared accountability. So to combat complacency, I recommend weekly assignments and weekly assessments. Even with this high degree of contact, many students can lose their way, and so this is why your syllabus is so critical, and it's really critical that you make your expectations clear. Again, we have that out of sight, out of mind problem that we're trying to combat. So let's talk about some important considerations for your syllabus. Now, these aren't in any particular order of importance. That's for you to decide. So our first point is connectivity. Whatever you decide, remember, you're not likely an IT professional. You're probably a physicist or a chemist or a biologist, political scientist, historian, and so on. You're likely not an IT professional. So what I recommend is that you establish the expectation early on, as in day one, that students must be responsible for their technology and their connectivity. More specifically, the policies that you set out are established with the assumption that your students all have the tools necessary to take this course. So remember, they decided they wanted to take the summer distance course. So hopefully they have in place the technology and connectivity they need to do so. So about the ability to correspond with your students. Please remind them that email addresses that they have on file are the primary way that you will get in touch with them for reminders and important notices and things of that nature. If they have an email address that's somethingwitty@hotmail.com that they check, by the minute, that may not be where your messages are going. So urge them to verify which email address is on file with Texas Tech, because that is the one that will be connected to Blackboard or to E-Rater, etc. So urge them to double check that. This will become more important when we discuss assessments here later on. So we'll come back to that. So speaking of email addresses, be sure to remind students of your preferred mode of contact. Personally, I prefer that students only contact me through my ttu.edu email address. I don't want to have to log into Blackboard to be able to check messages from students. You may prefer to have students go directly through Blackboard and not blow up your inbox. I completely understand that. My point is I recommend that you visit with your students about this and be specific, and I think that you'll find that they follow that request quite well. So to that point about emails, it might be a good idea to establish an expectation as to what your time frame is for replying to those emails that you get. More often than not, I get students from emailing me from midnight to 4 in the morning, sometimes 2 and 3 times between midnight and 4 in the morning. And they need to be reminded that I'm not necessarily looking at my inbox at 3:45 a.m. And so I have in my syllabus that I will respond to them within 24 hours of their email. I usually get to them by 10 a.m. or so the next morning, but just so that they know that you're not necessarily looking at your inbox 24/7. So, intellectual property. Your videos are yours. You created them. You worked very hard on them. All you need to do is explicitly state whether they will have the ability to stream or actually download those videos. So the choice is yours, but whether you want them to have these videos for perpetuity is one issue, but just having the ability to stream them through MediaSite is another ball of wax altogether. So just be explicit about what you would like for them to be able to do with those videos. And also tell them that they're not to be shared. If that's your opinion, if you prefer that they not be shared, put that in your syllabus as well. So number 6 here, you wouldn't think that it would need to be addressed, but it actually does, and it's an important one. So make sure that your students know that the deadlines for your assessments, quizzes, assignments, whatever, are going to be due at a specific time in a specific time zone. Obviously, I recommend that you use the time zone where Lubbock, Texas is, which is Central Time USA. You may decide you want something different, but just know that not all of your students will be in Central Time Zone USA. And so this is important for preempting any sort of miscommunication as to when an assignment was due. So I just recommend, I literally have within the first third of the first page of my syllabus that all deadlines are US Central Time. Point 7 here is specifically about labs or no credit labs. Everyone's course is going to be different. I just recommend that you address it. I am often asked specifically as to whether my lecture course goes over the laboratory as well. And in my syllabus, it outlines that specifically, but that may be different for you, and so I recommend that you just explain how the laboratory, whether it's a no credit lab, separate section altogether, how that will be addressed, because I guarantee you will get a question about it. Now, we're going to spend a few minutes on the topic of assessments. These are all recommendations, but they're recommendations based upon a few years of experience doing distance courses. I recommend that you create a window of time that students will be able to take their exams. For example, you can explain to them in writing, students, you will have from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. to start this exam. Once you begin, you will have 1 hour to complete the exam. Now, it's important that you have a plan as to how you will handle those students that might start their exam at, say, 6:58 p.m., 2 minutes before the end of the window. So this is for you to consider, but I guarantee you, no question, not a matter of if, but when, you will have to address this. So it's best to simply have a policy up front that describes when the testing window closes, it closes, and that's it. But if you want to handle it differently, that's fine. Just make sure you communicate that. So point B, please don't forget to add additional time for those students who are registered with the Office of Student Disabilities. If you have any questions at all about what accommodations that are listed in their letter of accommodation that apply to your distance course, I urge you to reach out to the Office of Student Disability Services. Dr. Larry Philippi is the managing director over there. They're incredibly helpful, and they will spend as much time with you as you need to make sure that you understand what you need to do for those students. So in terms of students that miss exams, remember I mentioned early on in this video about the out of sight, out of mind problem. That was specifically referring to missed exams. I recommend that you determine early on, day one, what is a valid excuse for missing an exam, and describe the consequences for missing that exam. It's possible that you feel that there is no valid excuse for missing an exam, but I recommend that you state that explicitly. I cannot stress this point enough. Point C here, make sure that you establish what is a valid excuse for missing an exam. Again, this is not a matter of if, this is a matter of when. So one way to help mitigate some of these issues of missed exams is to make frequent announcements in Blackboard. As you do that, I recommend that you check the box, because there is a checkbox that allows you to automatically generate an email to your students. This is this is the part that is so important as to why they need to be sure and have their check their official TTU email frequently, because this is when you check that box, this is where that message will go. Explain that to your students. Now, the other part of this is that this establishes an electronic paper trail that's particularly important for high percentage assessments, because you will likely have to reference those reminders at some point. Again, probably not a matter of if, but rather a point of when. Now, still speaking about assessments, it's best to establish a clear policy on how you will handle the circumstances such as technology failures or premature submissions on quizzes and exams. I've said it before, I'll say it again, not a matter of if, but rather a matter of when. Blackboard is being tested right now. There are a lot of, well, all of our courses are basically going through Blackboard. And so it's very likely that there are going to be peak times when there is a lot of activity that may cause students to be bumped off. It's important to have a plan for when that happens. Again, not if it happens, for when that happens. I am contacted 100% of the time during exams, and I have been every semester for the last 5 or 6 years, about a student being bumped off of Blackboard. Now, it may or may not be Blackboard's fault, but it happens, and ours is not to question why, but rather to get the student back on their feet so that they can get back to their exam. Again, the decision is yours as to how you make that decision or determination, but I'm just trying to urge you to be ready with a plan. Personally, I've found that screenshots are very helpful. I ask my students to snap a picture of the screen if they get a blue screen, or if Blackboard gives them some sort of error message, I urge them to take a picture of that. And in my testing instructions, they are told that they are to contact me immediately upon a technical failure. And then we address whatever the failure is. And sometimes it's as simple as the students accidentally push submit instead of save. Again, that's an honest mistake, and any one of us could make it, but be ready to be able to address that mistake in some form or fashion. It's a matter of when. Now, I'm sure you've already thought about how this is impacting academic integrity. Just make a plan on how you plan to reinforce academic integrity. TTU eLearning has resources such as Respondus and Proctorio. Respondus is a browser lockdown. Proctorio is technology dependent in that it requires that the student has a webcam. And they can tell you more about that. If you want to talk more about other methods, please feel free to contact me anytime, and we can discuss those various methods of enforcing academic integrity. Now, Blackboard is a great tool. It gives you a lot of control, but sometimes it's not that intuitive. I've mentioned Leslie's name, and I've now put her in writing here. Leslie DeBusk with TTU eLearning is a fantastic resource for assisting with Blackboard. In Some colleges have their own Blackboard expert, and I encourage you to reach out to them, such as Carissa Greathouse over in Kasner. And I believe that there is a Blackboard expert over in the Rawls College of Business. But I know that Leslie DeBusk handles a lot of the heavy lifting for the entire university. Speaking of Blackboard, encourage your students to use the browsers Google Chrome or Firefox. Google Chrome is the best here. Safari and Blackboard do not play well together. Easily 50% of your students, and that's a low estimate, are using some sort of Apple device, and Safari is the default for that particular device. So these are just a few of the policies for you to consider. This by no means was intended to be an exhaustive or comprehensive list of policies. My distance syllabus literally changes every semester as I encounter unforeseen circumstances. I recommend that you keep a running list of the things that you plan to change. I do that, and I'm glad I do it every semester. Please don't hesitate to contact me if you'd like to discuss more about building a distance course syllabus. Good luck with your new course, and take care.